at the front of the town hall, so I'll just pop out after this and come and see you. Yeah, I wish. So thanks for the kind introduction. It's a privilege to be here with the team. You're going to hear from our team as we go through today. So thanks for inviting us, and thanks for the introduction on Blackburn. So I don't need to say too much more. Although Darwen do have a historic football team, and it was the focus of a Netflix documentary that came out last year. So there's a lot of history here. It's a great northern town built on industry, a former mill town, but with also like new entrepreneurship. You've got like Euro garages here who they bought Asda, the biggest forecourt service station in the world, I think, certainly throughout Europe. So there's a lot of new stuff going, a lot of big companies and local entrepreneurship, and yeah, we're on a journey. Just to talk about the cathedral and the town. We are going for city status, so if you could back Blackburn, which is a hashtag on Twitter, that'd be appreciated too. But yeah, let me move on to the digital journey, because that's what you're all here for. So I was asked to just talk a bit about the future of digital, but I'm just gonna start with like kind of where we've come from, a little bit on last year, and then talk about where I think things will go here and probably everywhere, because a lot of what I'll say today and a lot of what the team will go through, you know, it's a bit of an 80-20. It's happening everywhere. We don't reinvent the wheel. We learn from the best, and then we create the best that we can bring in Blackburn. But just start with the foundation. So I came over in June of 2018. The unit, we're a unitary authority, so we cover, you know, the whole spectrum of services, from social care, children's care, education, highways, and all the environment stuff, as well as the back office. And that's what I predominantly look after. So from the digital side to finance, to legal, customer services, and various other sections. And about 2,500 employees plus schools on top of that. So that's about 5,000 people at Blackburn. But I came in 2018, and I found a council that was already on a road to digital. They'd digitized so many services previously. They'd done a lot of channel shift work. There was a strategy in place. I'd come from the NHS, and we were well digitized in the NHS. I worked in primary care. We'd digitized all the records and integrated records across care systems. But what I found in local authorities, which should chime with all of you really, is that I think austerity had pushed councils to channel shift faster, and I thought local authorities, local government had shifted much quicker than the NHS in a lot of ways. So that was really interesting. But when I came in, the council had made a decision to put a senior role in for digital. So I came in as the director of digital and business change. Now that's really important, because I sat on the corporate leadership team, reported into the deputy chief exec at the time. Now I report into the chief exec. So it's really important to have that leadership as part of the officer team. And also we had political buy-in. Obviously the leader had agreed for this role to come in, but we also rejigged the member portfolios so that we have an executive or cabinet member for digital and customer services who came in 2019. So that sets the bedrock, really. That sets the mandate where you can create the narrative and you can start that culture. And the culture does start at the top. When I go to board and the leadership team, I basically say digital is all of your jobs. It's not my job. I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to steer and guide, but digital has to be part of everyone's role, because digital underpins everything a modern organisation does, and that's stating the obvious, but I really try and hit that home at board level. So I mentioned that we had a digital strategy. It was pretty high level, as our new digital strategy is, and there wasn't a delivery plan really behind it before. So one of the first things I did was flesh that out with the team, co-designed a business plan around that strategy, and we delivered on that. And that's important too. You've got to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver. So we took that strategy and we delivered, you know, the vast majority of it in my eyes. And that gave us built a trust. It gave us form. It gave us trust through different departments where, you know, like probably many councils, there's a bit of siloing in our council. And I think through delivering on what we said we would, that built a trust between the different departments with digital. And it moved away from being just the back office IT department where you got something fixed when it broke. We also restructured and we brought in new methodology working with the Government Digital Service. We did that in 2019. So that gave us the structure and the skills to make a leap, really. And I think from going from the previous, where I said it was on a path of digitization already, I think by bringing in these new methods that you're going to hear about later, it laser focused what we were doing. Really, it sort of made change happen quicker in a more targeted and prioritized way. So also, you know, you hear these sessions and you don't always hear the warts and all. We've had a lot of change, a lot of staff changes. We had people who didn't like the changes that were coming through. You know, I had PMO people who didn't like bringing through agile, that they wanted to stay in the old world. I've had IT people who didn't want to go to DevOps. You know, that, and that's tough. And sometimes it tests you as a leader to think, are you moving things too quickly? Are you bringing people along, or do you need to take that pace slower? And my view is that we've got to get this organisation in the right place as soon as we can. So it's took a bravery from the organisation, from our team, to start to move into those areas. So we have an agile structure with lots of service design. You'll see that later. I know Joe's going to present that. And we've got DevOps in IT. So that's changed the game too. And there's still challenges with bringing all that through. Of course, it's not plain sailing. But you know, as well as like we've had people who've not performed and people who've been disgruntled, but equally and more so, we've had people that have come through. We've had promotion of talent, new people come in, people coming in from across the business too. So particularly like customer services areas and areas of people services, people wanting to join the digital team now because they can see what we're doing, they can see the difference that they can make. So that led us into 2020, and what I'll say here will be exactly what everyone has gone through. It was a pivotal year. We put those methods and products into practice, which you're going to hear about today. And I think the preparation we did prior to 2020 was absolutely key. Delivering the strategy, getting platforms in place, cloud platforms, 365 teams, mobile devices, a lot of infrastructure work. We still had to react a lot in 2020 to fine tune that, but we were in a good position because of the groundwork we'd done. And I go back to that bedrock and the groundwork as being so important. And I think people have learned and developed quickly in 2020, and the appetite for tech and change has obviously raised massively. So I did a little joke. I did a, you know, I think it's Cotter's change curve, where you get like, you know, the early adopters, then you get the dips and the laggards and that. And I think the curve has just gone, you know, exponential with the appetite for tech and change. And you'll all have found that, I'm sure. And then 2020, it's been so tough, but it has hit home the sense of purpose that comes with working in local governments. And I think although it wasn't as in the front line as the NHS, certainly in the media, what we could see happening in local government, reacting to a humanitarian crisis, really was outstanding, and I'm proud of everything the team did. I think, you know, Nick mentioned that award that I got, that CIO one. It was a bit of a shock and a bit bizarre, really, but what I'm glad is that it shone a light on local governments and public services more generally, but really local government and what we all did in 2020, and we still continue to do. So just a few minutes on the future. So we're going to design services in a human-centered way. We're going to build on customer research. We're going to leverage advanced technologies. Want us to be an even closer partner with residents, our customers, the service users, with more accessible services, with open democracy, more open democracy, and just a lot of co-design. So Joe and Ross will touch upon this, but working with our partners, with our users is absolutely pivotal. We're going to build, this is really important, building sustainable funding models for technology. So not relying on the old capital models, they're just not going to work in a new world. So moving to cloud, etc. So we want to create the space in revenue lines to sustainably grow technology capability to deliver improved services. And one small example of this, I went out to see our adult learning team who were having problems with the digital setup for learners. And when I looked at their budget, it was just set up based on capital. So there was no room in that budget for sustainable digital delivery. So that's just one small example, but it's rife throughout the council. It'll be rife throughout your organisations too, I imagine. So we're starting to turn that around and move to revenue models, and you've got to build the space in the model for those future systems. On the organizational development side, so we want to build in new skills and capabilities through recruitment. So starting with apprentices, building future skills into traditional paths, things like artificial intelligence and code as part of finance roles, as part of legal and solicitor roles, IoT, Internet of Things throughout the people and place services. They're just some examples. Staying behind that curve is going to cost us and cost everyone more money in the future. So it's about setting out as an organization-wide strategy that puts those blocks together of digital, organizational development and transformation and data and digital at its heart, not a tick box that's just there by default. So we've set out a new strategy. You can read that on the web. If you just Google Blackburn Digital 2024, you'll see our presentation that went to executive board. We're going to deliver on that. That's our key focus. We want to provide the right infrastructure to scale. So in my eyes, cloud is the only infrastructure that can affordably create a scale for the future digital requirements of a modern public institution and anchor institution. If we want to go with IoT and artificial intelligence and use data more and use more public facing services digitally, you need to be able to scale that very quickly and provision that very quickly. And cloud, I think, is the only way to do that affordably. And we want to create an ecosystem of products with an open and integrated approach, both from a data perspective, but also from an experience perspective. And then just finally, and these are my most important things, because I think everything I've said, you'll either already know or you can find out from other places and other people. So you set that in place, but really it's about leadership. And for me, creating leadership everywhere throughout the business. So creating the conditions for people to do brilliant work and thrive. And you'll hear about our blog later, and there's loads of great blogs out there. Some of you will have blogs, and I always read them, learn from everybody else, and don't reinvent it. But I know that that's working because I read the blogs of people who are coming through the system, from junior members of staff to more experienced members of staff to heads of service. I know that that is working, that we are empowering people to do that work. So less permissioning, and people are now iterating and improving things all the time. I think that's a really key. It's a time for me to be stepping back more and allowing that to happen and just creating that environment as a leader. And then even more importantly, right now, it's about providing a safe, inclusive, flexible and a healthy place to work from. So resilience has been tested to the max. I'm seeing burnout all over the industry and throughout many industries. So if there's one priority, it's to create that safe place to continue to thrive. And that means getting the priorities and the pace right for 2022. And that's something that I'm working with my leadership team now, absolutely key, that we don't continue burnout, that we get people in the right place at the right pace for next year. So there's just some very high level thoughts for myself, and I look forward to the rest of the session. So thanks, Nick.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Paul. Really interesting and insightful. I've actually before this listened to podcasts that you've done and podcasts that Ross has done and that sort of thing. So I sort of knew some of what you were going to say. But yeah, I know that we're supposed to have Ross up now, but I think it'd be churlish of me if we've got the #1 CIO in the country. If I didn't sort of say, let's just say, do you mind just taking a few questions if there are any? I know I've definitely got a couple of questions, but would anyone like to ask Paul a question? Because I'm assuming that you can't stay on for the whole session. You're going to have to disappear at some point. Yeah. So, has anyone got any questions? Put your hands up, Michael. You're crying and putting your hand up at the same time.
Oh, yeah, it's those piano figures I've got.
It's not an emotional plea, is it? It's just a functional plea. Right, ask your questions of Paul.
Yeah. Good morning, Paul. And I notice obviously what you've just said there, and I didn't catch it right at the beginning, but obviously the emphasis around cloud here, and I've seen previously that you went to councillors asking for considerable investment. And what would be the hints and tips, if you like, of how you get that engagement and buy-in from your elected members? Because clearly you can't do cloud without that investment and that backing from your elected members, and that's kind of where we are right now, with a paper due to go to committee in February, asking for that investment to come out of to close our data centres and move to the cloud. And I just wondered, if you were to do it all over again, would you do anything different with regards to getting that buy-in and engagement from councillors?
Morning, Michael. That's a really interesting question. It's made me reflect quite a bit, and makes me think we need to write a blog on what we've done, because it's been quite a long journey. We had a business case ready for cloud months and months ago, but I didn't feel it was ready to take through the system, and we've spent months getting into the right sort of positioning with it. So we set out a financial case that changed a lot over a number of months. We kept going back to the drawing board with it. Licensing was really, really complicated when we were building that. We've got a very high spec data centers, and we've got tenants in there, commercial tenants. So there was managing that too, which we we're keeping the data center with our tenants, but probably looking at a longer term phase rollout. We took it to members quite early on. We took it to our exec member. Now, every council is different in the way they'll manage the governance. So we have a cabinet system, a strong leader model. So we got our exec member involved early on, got a real good understanding built up. Probably worth mentioning, prior to that, we did something that I've actually not seen anywhere else. And I just thought it was the right thing. I didn't do it to be unique. We put the costs of the digital strategy in the digital strategy. So when we put that document through, we said we want £11 million to deliver a digital strategy to 2024. So that set us up then. So when and we'd mentioned some of the lines that needed to be spent on. So when we went, the opposition and the main leading party, they weren't surprised at the figures. We'd warmed them up back in April, and then we'd been through a long journey of developing this case and this story with executive members, and it went through fairly smoothly. Now, I think we should do a blog, but if you want to speak to us offline on that, we can certainly tell you a bit more about what we did. But yeah, there'd be some of the key take-homes from the cloud business case. And the other thing is, what I thought it would do, if we put the costs in the strategy, it stopped the press from haranguing us saying you've spent X amount on this project, or the proposing X, Y, and Z, when of course a lot of the costs are capitalised internally for staff. Yeah. But it doesn't stop the press. They still scrutinise in that way, and that's something we just accept.
Yeah, we've had one council up here in Scotland be harangued by the press because they've decided to recruit a digital officer and not spend it on children's playgrounds, etc. So yeah, they are what they are, the press, I guess. But no, thanks very much for that. Yeah, good answer.
Brilliant, thanks, Michael. Any other questions for Paul? Paul, I was going to ask you just. Because I come across people in this situation all the time that aren't lucky. They work for a council, but they're not lucky enough to have, somebody of your sort of standing at the level within the organisation you are. So I see a lot of people sort of in middle management or slightly below that get digital and understand it and are doing as much as they can, but hit a sort of glass ceiling when it comes to the leadership. Have you got any suggestions how they break that glass ceiling and how they can convince leadership that this is the right way to go?
Well, I think it's the proof in the pudding, isn't it? When you deliver great things, well, there's a bit back.
Got it.
When you deliver great things, then you gain trust. So when you deliver a lot of benefit, you start to build that trust, and I think we've built on a lot of momentum. I think in some organisations, ultimately it's down to the CEO, and our CEO gets digital, and she's really open ears when I speak about these agendas. She does get it when I talk about customer research and service design. So you need it at the top, and in some places it's going to take time to get the right leadership in place. What I'd say to anyone in middle management who might be frustrated in that is keep building on your journey. You keep doing the right things, and eventually, that organisation or wherever you are is going to get there. So I totally relate to that because I've come through every rank, but it's about the whole digital team getting it. The whole leadership team getting digital, like I said in the talk. But it's very much a cultural. It's not an easy one to answer because you're basing on culture and leadership, and ultimately you need to get recruitment right at director level. Directors can't just be specific to their speciality. They need to have a good understanding, a good grip of digital benefit. We're doing a lot of development on that. Boards can do a lot of development, but I think there's a churn of recruitment as well, and new leaders coming through.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, here we go. Kieran has asked, what would you say are the quickest, easiest wins to get early and build that trust?
So I think COVID and 2020 has taught us to ruthlessly prioritize, and that was my biggest take home from last year. So why did we achieve so much? Why did the team here achieve so much? And the team is fantastic here. It's because we just got down to the right things to prioritize, and we put the right resources around the right priorities. And my reflection of my whole IT career is that, especially when I was in the NHS, you just kind of did what you were supposed to do. Oh yeah, you invest in this infrastructure, invest in that. Nationally, there's a push to a certain practice or technology. What we did last year, we realized what we needed to do, and we looked at that practically. So you need to peel everything back and say, what we're trying to deliver as an organization for our residents. What do they need? Where do we put the resource? Where do we put the investment? And last year we put it into a platform, a low-code portal. We put it into designing through people, through skills, and really surfacing some fantastic products that made a big difference. So ruthless prioritization is where you get the quick wins, because you can't do everything. And I think we still struggle a bit with that. We've got a lot on, but when I came, there was like a million things on, and it was, how do we do things quickly? How do we laser focus that? So our digital team, they were actually going around to every department, and I did a quick calculation, a bit of a crude calculation, and I realized with the resources that were assigned to it, it would take them 9 years to get around the whole council. Well, yeah, the world will have moved on well before then. So we expanded that team, but laser focused them. So recently they've worked on like waste and environments, and they're delivering brilliant products through that. Last year it was delivering on forms for COVID. So best people, right priorities, backward investment, and full buy-in from leadership. Brilliant.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I guess the last question, what type of high-level KPIs have you used to prove things are working?
Ooh, that's a really difficult question. Well, I've found it interesting with looking at KPIs in local government, because you have public KPIs, which are kind of almost too high level to be meaningful. And then you've got your internal KPIs, which can run into the hundreds. So yeah, I'm not sure KPIs are the best marker here. For me, it's around the empowerment of our staff, and it's the products that are being delivered. So look at the website, look at the pages. I mean, there's a lot of like data and KPIs behind that we keep our eye on. But really, I'm looking at the quality of services, and things like complaints. We turn complaints into customer panel entries now. So if someone complains, they end up on the customer panel helping us to deliver things. So I think I've skirted around the answer a little bit, and it's because I think we're still working through what good KPIs look like, but I'm more interested in my people and the quality of things they're delivering.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul. Thanks very much for your